Financial independence is not a distant dream reserved for the chosen few. It is a state of consciousness first, and a condition that follows as naturally as night follows day. When one understands that supply is governed by law and not by chance, the idea of freedom from financial pressure becomes simple and inevitable. The desire to save, to invest wisely, and to act early is not born of fear or deprivation, but of inner guidance responding to divine order. Money, like all substance, is obedient to thought, and when thought is disciplined, purposeful and fearless, wealth moves into form with speed and harmony. The principle behind early and intentional saving is faith in the unseen. One gives to the future without anxiety, knowing that what is set aside under right thinking is multiplied. Investment, when approached with clarity and intuition, is not gambling but cooperation with universal intelligence. Every dollar directed with confidence becomes a messenger, sent ahead to prepare the way for freedom. The mind that understands this does not cling, rush, or doubt. It moves calmly, knowing that accumulation is the result of alignment, not struggle. Retiring early is not an escape from life, but an entrance into it. When the burden of constant earning is lifted, the individual is free to express purpose, creativity, and service. This freedom is not achieved by force, but by obedience to inner wisdom that says, "Prepare now, and you shall rejoice later." Aggressive saving is not harshness toward oneself, it is self-respect. It is the recognition that time is an ally when honored early, and an adversary only when ignored. The idea of becoming a millionaire quickly is transformed when viewed through spiritual law. Speed comes not from pressure, but from clarity. When one eliminates wasteful habits of thought, fear, envy, impatience, the path shortens. Compound growth mirrors the law of increase. What is impressed with belief expands beyond human calculation. Small, consistent actions taken with certainty create results that appear miraculous, yet are simply orderly. Those who walk this path are not driven by scarcity but by assurance. They do not ask, "Will there be enough?" but affirm there is always more than enough. This conviction shapes behavior effortlessly. Spending becomes intentional, saving becomes joyful, and investing becomes inspired. The future is not feared, for it is already claimed in consciousness. Financial independence is, therefore, the outer symbol of inner dominion. To live below one's means is to rise above fear. To invest early is to trust life. To retire early is to demonstrate mastery over time and circumstance. When thought is disciplined and aligned with abundance, money flows into the channels prepared for it, opportunities appear without strain, and freedom unfolds as a natural state, revealing that wealth was never something to chase, but something to allow, something already arranged in the unseen, waiting only for recognition and right action to move into visible form, fulfilling the law that what is impressed upon the mind must express itself in experience. Financial independence begins with disciplined thought and intentional action. Financial independence begins first in the mind, long before it appears in accounts, assets, or numbers. Every condition in the outer world is a reflection of an inner agreement, and when a person agrees inwardly that they are meant to be free, supported, and unburdened by financial fear, their actions begin to reorganize themselves naturally. Discipline is not punishment or restriction, it is alignment. It is the quiet decision to act in harmony with a larger purpose, rather than in reaction to temporary emotions. Intentional action arises when thought is no longer scattered but directed, when desire is purified of desperation and shaped by certainty. One who understands this does not drift financially, they move with meaning. Many believe financial independence is achieved through effort alone, yet effort without clarity leads to exhaustion. Disciplined thought brings order to effort. When the mind is trained to focus on sufficiency rather than lack, decisions become calm and precise. Spending is no longer impulsive, saving is no longer painful, and planning no longer feels overwhelming. Intentional action means every choice serves freedom, even small ones. Each deliberate step, no matter how modest, carries the energy of the final goal within it. A single conscious decision repeated consistently holds more power than grand plans abandoned through doubt. Discipline of thought requires awareness of inner dialogue. Words spoken silently shape outcomes just as surely as words spoken aloud. When one continually affirms limitation, struggle appears faithful and obedient. When one affirms order, abundance responds with equal loyalty. To think in a disciplined way is to refuse panic, comparison, and impatience. It is to recognize that time is cooperative when respected. Those who act intentionally do not rush wealth, they allow it to unfold through structure and order. Their actions are steady, their expectations calm, and their confidence unshaken by temporary delays. Intentional action is rooted in self-respect. A person who values their future honors it with present choices. They do not wait for perfect conditions, they create conditions through consistency. Saving becomes a declaration that the future is worth preparing for. Learning becomes an investment rather than a distraction. Work becomes a channel, not a cage. Even rest is intentional, Sen, to restore clarity rather than escape responsibility. This balance is not accidental, it is cultivated through conscious living. Financial freedom is often mistaken for excess, yet it is truly the absence of fear. Disciplined thought removes fear by replacing it with understanding. One begins to see money as a servant rather than a master, a tool rather than a test. Intentional action trains money to move where it is directed. Without intention, money leaks away through unconscious habits. With intention, it gathers strength and momentum. What is directed grows, what is ignored diminishes. The disciplined mind does not envy others' success, for it understands that comparison fractures focus. Every individual has their own channels of supply, their own rhythm of increase. Intentional action honors this individuality. It chooses paths that align with personal values rather than borrowed definitions of success. This alignment creates ease, and ease accelerates progress. Strain is not a sign of virtue, clarity is. When thought is orderly, discipline becomes effortless. One no longer battles temptation, priorities become clear. Decisions that once felt difficult now feel obvious. The desire for freedom becomes stronger than the desire for approval or comfort. Intentional action then becomes a form of devotion to one's future self. Each choice whispers, "I trust what I am becoming." This trust removes hesitation and strengthens resolve. Financial independence does not arrive ease suddenly. It reveals itself gradually as confidence grows. The disciplined thinker notices subtle shifts, reduced anxiety, increased patience, improved judgment. These inner changes precede outer results. Opportunities appear because the mind is prepared to recognize them. Resources expand because they are managed with respect. Intentional action creates reliability, and reliability attracts increase. To live intentionally is to live awake. One observes patterns, corrects gently, and persists without self-criticism. Mistakes are not failures but adjustments. Discipline does not condemn, it guides. The individual learns to respond rather than react, to plan rather than hope. This steadiness builds momentum that compounds over time, just as financial growth compounds when left undisturbed. The beginning of independence is often quiet and unseen. There are no celebrations for disciplined choices made alone, yet these unseen acts carry great power. Every thoughtful decision strengthens the foundation upon which freedom stands. Intentional action is the language through which belief speaks. When belief and behavior agree, results cannot contradict them. As disciplined thought becomes habitual, life simplifies. Distractions lose their pull. Clarity sharpens direction. One no longer asks whether freedom is possible but focuses on how to express it daily. Financial independence then ceases to feel like a distant destination and begins to feel like a natural unfolding. The mind Hat is trained to think clearly, calmly, and confidently creates actions that are precise and effective. These actions accumulate quietly, steadily, and lawfully, forming a structure of freedom that stands firm, regardless of external conditions, revealing that true wealth is first established in consciousness and then mirrored faithfully in form. Saving early is an act of faith in future abundance. Saving early is an act of faith in future abundance, a quiet declaration that tomorrow is already provided for and does not need to be feared. When one saves with understanding, it is not done from anxiety or deprivation, but from trust in an invisible order that responds to preparation. Faith is not passive waiting. It is active cooperation with law. To set aside resources today is to affirm that life is friendly, that supply increases when honored, and that what is respected grows strong. The mind that saves early is not clinging to money, but releasing it into purpose, allowing it to multiply in ways unseen. Many misunderstand saving as sacrifice, yet true saving is alignment. It is the recognition that abundance flows best through channels that are prepared in advance. When one saves early, they are saying inwardly, I expect increase. Expectation shapes experience. A person who believes the future will be difficult spends impulsively, as if bracing for loss. A person who believes the future is abundant saves calmly, knowing there is no need to grasp or rush. Faith removes urgency, and without urgency, clarity enters. Early saving trains the mind to think beyond the present moment. It stretches awareness forward, gently loosening attachment to immediate gratification. This expansion of perspective is spiritual as much as practical. It teaches patience, foresight, and trust. Each small act of saving reinforces the idea that life responds to order. Money placed aside with confidence does not stagnate, it rests, gathering momentum. The individual may not see immediate results, but faith does not require visible proof. It requires inner certainty. There is power in beginnings. What is started early carries less resistance and more grace. Saving in the early stages of life, or early in any financial journey, allows time to become a companion rather than an obstacle. Time responds to faith by compounding effort gently and consistently. The person who saves early is not racing, they are allowing. They are letting growth unfold naturally, without force. This ease is not laziness but wisdom. Faith in abundance transforms the emotional relationship with money. Fear dissolves when trust is present. One no longer hoards nor wastes. Saving becomes joyful, not restrictive. It is a conversation with the future self, spoken in the language of care. Each saved amount carries intention within it, and intention directs outcome. Money responds not to quantity alone, but to the consciousness with which it is handled. Saving early also dissolves the illusion that freedom must come suddenly. Instead, freedom is built gently, piece by piece, without strain. The individual learns that consistency outweighs intensity. A small, faithful act repeated steadily carries more power than dramatic gestures fueled by panic. Faith does not shout. It moves quietly and persistently. It does not demand immediate reward, for it knows reward is inevitable. When faith governs saving, comparison loses its hold. One no longer measures progress against others, but trusts the rhythm of their own unfolding. This inner security prevents discouragement. Even modest savings feel significant because they are infused with belief. The saver understands that the unseen accumulation of confidence, discipline, and trust is as valuable as the financial accumulation itself. Early saving also creates emotional freedom. When resources are set aside, the nervous system relaxes. Decisions become clearer. Opportunities are approached thoughtfully rather than desperately. Faith removes the sense of being trapped by circumstances. The individual knows that options are forming quietly in the background. This knowledge changes posture, tone, and presence. Confidence becomes natural, not forced. The act of saving early affirms worthiness. It says, "My future deserves care." This belief shapes identity. One begins to see themselves as a steward rather than a struggler. Stewardship invites increase. What is cared for is strengthened. Money that is honored responds by staying, growing, and serving. Neglect and fear repel it. Respect attracts it. Faith does not deny challenges, but it refuses to bow to them. A faithful saver understands that interruptions do not cancel progress. Temporary setbacks are not signs of failure, but invitations to recommit. Saving early builds resilience because it builds trust in process rather than outcome. The individual no longer depends on single events to secure freedom. They rely on law and consistency. The future responds to preparation. When one saves early, they are planting seeds in receptive soil. Growth happens quietly, beneath the surface, long before results appear. This invisible phase requires faith. Many abandon saving because they expect immediate transformation. Those who persist understand that unseen growth is still growth. Patience becomes natural when faith is present. Saving early also refines desire. One learns the difference between want and value. Impulses weaken as purpose strengthens. Spending becomes intentional, guided by clarity rather than emotion. This clarity frees energy for creation rather than correction. Life becomes simpler, lighter, more orderly. Faith in abundance does not mean ignoring enjoyment. It means enjoying without fear. A faithful saver does not deprive themselves harshly, they choose consciously. Joy and preparation coexist when guided by trust. Balance emerges naturally when fear is absent. The individual learns to honor both present comfort and future freedom without conflict. As saving becomes habitual, it reshapes identity. One no longer identifies as someone hoping for stability, but as someone building it. This shift in self-concept is powerful. Actions follow identity effortlessly. Saving no longer requires willpower, it becomes expression. Faith has moved from idea to embodiment. The earliest acts of saving may feel insignificant, yet they carry immense symbolic weight. They represent a turning point in consciousness. The moment one saves with faith, they step out of survival thinking and into creative thinking. They begin to cooperate with abundance rather than chase it. Faith-filled saving also cultivates gratitude. Each saved amount becomes evidence of provision rather than lack. Gratitude strengthens faith, and faith accelerates growth. This cycle feeds itself. The more one trusts, the more order appears. The more order appears, the deeper trust becomes. In time, saving early reveals itself not merely as a financial habit, but as a spiritual practice. It trains the mind to expect good, to prepare calmly, and to trust unseen processes. The individual becomes anchored, unshaken by fluctuations. Their sense of security comes not from external guarantees, but from inner knowing. To save lie is to align with increase before it is visible. It is to act as though abundance is certain because it is. This act of faith speaks louder than affirmations or wishes. It demonstrates belief through behavior. When belief and action agree, life responds without resistance, arranging circumstances, opportunities, and resources in harmony with that belief, allowing abundance to unfold naturally, steadily, and lawfully, through channels already prepared in advance. Investing aligns money with the law of growth and increase. Investing aligns money with the law of growth and increase, for whatever is placed in motion with understanding must expand according to its nature. Money that is invested consciously is not released into uncertainty, but entrusted to order. Growth is not accidental. It is governed by principle. When one invests with clarity, patience, and inner assurance, they are cooperating with a force that multiplies steadily and silently. This cooperation removes strain and replaces it with expectation. The individual no longer hopes for increase, they allow it, knowing that all things placed under law respond faithfully. Investment is often misunderstood as risk, yet risk arises only when action is taken without alignment. When money is invested from fear or impatience, it reflects that state. When invested from calm certainty, it reflects stability and growth. The law of increase responds not only to numbers, but to consciousness. Money follows belief as surely as form follows thought. To invest is to give money a direction, and direction gives it purpose. Purpose invites expansion. Growth requires time, and time responds generously when trusted. The investor who understands this does not interfere with constant doubt or impulsive movement. They allow the process to mature. Just as a seed planted in fertile ground does not require daily disturbance, invested money requires faith more than supervision. Confidence replaces anxiety. Stillness replaces urgency. Growth unfolds naturally when allowed to complete its cycle. Alignment with growth also means respecting rhythm. Markets rise and fall, yet the law of increase remains unchanged. The disciplined investor is not swayed by surface movement. They understand that fluctuation is not contradiction, but motion. Motion is evidence of life. When money is aligned with long-term intention, temporary shifts lose their power to disturb. Calm observation replaces reaction. This calm is not ignorance, it is wisdom. Investment trains the mind to think in terms of expansion rather than consumption. Money that is invested is no longer seen as something to be used up, but something to be multiplied. This shift in perception is transformative. It elevates thought from immediacy to continuity. The investor begins to see themselves as a participant in growth, rather than a spectator of circumstance. This participation strengthens confidence and refines judgment. The law of increase rewards consistency. Sporadic action reflects uncertainty, while steady action reflects belief. When one invests regularly, regardless of noise or distraction, they affirm trust in process. This trust becomes momentum. Momentum simplifies decisions and strengthens resolve. Over time, consistency reveals its quiet power. What seemed small becomes significant. What seemed slow becomes substantial. Investing also refines patience, a quality essential for expansion. Patience is not waiting without expectation, it is waiting with certainty. The patient investor knows that growth is happening even when unseen. This knowing removes restlessness. The need for constant validation dissolves. Faith becomes anchored, not emotional. The investor learns to sit with progress rather than chase it. Alignment with growth requires detachment from outcome without detachment from intention. One invests with clear purpose, then releases control. This balance allows the law to operate without interference. Control constricts, trust expands. The more one trusts the structure they have chosen, the more smoothly growth occurs. Interference often delays what would otherwise arrive naturally. Money aligned with increase attracts opportunity. As investments grow, awareness grows alongside them. The investor becomes more perceptive, more informed, more intuitive. Decisions sharpen because experience accumulates. Growth is not only financial, it is intellectual and emotional. Confidence deepens and fear loses authority. The individual begins to act from knowledge rather than speculation. Investment also teaches responsibility. What is invested must be respected. This respect cultivates discipline and attentiveness. Carelessness diminishes growth, while care strengthens it. The investor learns that attention itself is a form of nourishment. When money is treated with seriousness and calm regard, it responds accordingly. The law of increase does not favor haste. Attempts to force rapid expansion often collapse under their own weight. True growth is sustainable. It builds upon itself layer by layer. Investing honors this structure. It allows wealth to grow in proportion to readiness. As capacity expands, so does result. This balance prevents overwhelm and supports longevity. Alignment with growth also dissolves envy. The investor understands that expansion is not limited. Another's increase does not diminish their own. This understanding protects focus. Energy is no longer scattered through comparison. Attention remains anchored to personal progress. Focus strengthens results, and results reinforce belief. Investment requires faith in unseen accumulation. Compound growth is quiet in its early stages. Those unfamiliar with the law may abandon the process prematurely. Those aligned with it remain steady. They understand that early growth builds foundation, not display. This understanding protects them from discouragement. Faith sustains action until evidence appears. Money invested with our standing also develops resilience. Losses, when they occur, are seen as lessons rather than judgments. The investor adjusts without self-condemnation. Learning becomes continuous. Growth resumes because confidence remains intact. Fear does not dominate decision-making. The law responds to stability of belief, not perfection of outcome. As alignment deepens, investing becomes intuitive. Choices are no longer driven by impulse but by resonance. The investor feels drawn toward opportunities that match their values and timeline. This intuitive guidance strengthens results. Decisions feel clear rather than forced. Ease becomes a sign of alignment. Investment also creates distance from fear-based urgency. Immediate gratification loses appeal. Long-term vision gains authority. This shift simplifies life. Fewer choices are needed because priorities are clear. Energy is conserved and directed. The mind becomes quieter, more focused, more assured. The law of increase is impartial. It responds to anyone who cooperates with it. Investing is one of the clearest forms of cooperation. It demonstrates belief in continuation, expansion, and order. It signals readiness to receive more by caring wisely for what is already present. As investments mature, they reflect the consciousness that created them. Steady belief produces steady growth. Confident action produces reliable returns. Doubt introduces friction. Faith removes it. The investor who remains aligned does not measure success solo. Why by numbers, but by stability of mind and clarity of direction. Over time, investing transforms identity. One no longer sees money as unpredictable or threatening. It becomes structured, responsive, and logical. Trust replaces tension. The individual stands in quiet authority over their resources. This authority is not dominance, but understanding. Growth aligned with law does not require constant effort. It requires initial clarity and continued allowance. Once direction is set, life carries the momentum forward. Investment becomes a partnership with principle rather than a struggle against chance. Money placed under the law increase responds faithfully, steadily expanding according to its design. When belief, patience, and consistency agree, growth becomes inevitable, unfolding in quiet obedience to the understanding that what is aligned with increase must increase, responding to clarity, trust, and steady direction by multiplying beyond the reach of force or haste. Time becomes an ally when wealth is prepared in advance. Time becomes an ally when wealth is prepared in advance, for time itself responds to foresight with cooperation and ease. When preparation precedes demand, there is no urgency, and without urgency, clarity governs action. Those who prepare early do not struggle against time, they move with it. Time magnifies what is placed within it. When intention, discipline, and patience are deposited early, time returns them multiplied. This is not chance but dear. The future rewards respect, and respect is shown through preparation. Preparation changes one's relationship with waiting. Waiting is no longer empty or anxious, it becomes purposeful. Each moment is understood as contributing to something already set in motion. The individual who prepares in advance does not fear delay, because delay is simply part of the process of unfolding. Time is not wasted when direction is clear. It is only wasted when action is postponed by doubt. When wealth is prepared early, time removes pressure. Decisions are made calmly rather than reactively. Opportunities are evaluated without desperation. This calm attracts better outcomes because it allows discernment. Time favors those who do not rush it. Preparation gives space, and space allows wisdom to speak. The unprepared are forced to choose quickly. The prepared are free to choose well. Time also compounds effort. What is done consistently, even in small measure, gains strength through repetition. Early preparation allows repetition to do its work. Each year, each season, quietly adds weight to the foundation. The effect is subtle at first, almost invisible, but it grows steadily. Those who begin late often underestimate this accumulation, believing they can compensate with intensity. Yet intensity cannot replace duration. Time responds best to steadiness. Preparing wealth in advance transforms fear into confidence. The unknown loses its power when plans are in place. The individual no longer feels chased by future obligations. Instead, they feel accompanied by readiness. This emotional shift is significant. Confidence improves decision-making, strengthens persistence, and reduces stress. Time becomes less threatening when it is met with preparation rather than avoidance. Time also teaches patience. Those who prepare early learn to trust processes that do not offer immediate reward. This trust refines character. Impulsiveness weakens, foresight strengthens. One begins to value progress over speed. This valuation aligns with the natural rhythm of growth. Nothing in nature matures instantly, and wealth follows the same law. Time supports what grows organically. Preparation also creates flexibility. When resources are ready, life's changes are easier to navigate. Unexpected events do not dismantle stability. Options remain available. This flexibility is a form of freedom. It allows adjustment without panic. Time, instead of compressing choices, expands them. Those who prepare early understand that time is neutral but responsive. It does not judge intention, it amplifies it. Neglect is amplified into urgency. Preparation is amplified into ease. This understanding shifts behavior naturally. One no longer delays necessary action. Procrastination loses appeal when its future cost is recognized. Time aligned with preparation also deepens trust in self. Each prepared step reinforces identity as someone capable of foresight and discipline. This identity strengthens. Consistency. One continues preparing because it feels natural, not forced. The relationship with time becomes respectful rather than adversarial. Preparing wealth in advance also simplifies future decisions. Many choices are already made through prior planning. This simplicity conserves energy. Mental clarity improves. One is no longer burdened by constant calculation or worry. Time becomes spacious rather than crowded. This spaciousness improves quality of life long before financial goals are fully realized. Time rewards alignment, not perfection. Early preparation does not require flawless execution. It requires commitment to beginning. Adjustments are expected and accommodated. Because there is time, corrections are gentle rather than drastic. This gentleness preserves confidence. Harsh self-judgment dissolves when there is room to grow. Preparation also strengthens resilience. Setbacks encountered early are easier to absorb and learn from. Time allows recovery. Lessons are integrated without lasting damage. Those who prepare late face compressed consequences, which intensify stress. Early preparation distributes learning across years rather than forcing it into moments of crisis. Time also nurtures perspective. As years pass, patterns become visible. The prepared individual recognizes what works and what does not. This recognition refines strategy. Experience accumulates without pressure. Growth becomes intelligent rather than accidental. When wealth is prepared in advance, time enhances enjoyment. Future security allows present moments to be experienced fully. There is less background anxiety, less mental noise. Peace becomes accessible even before independence is complete. Time contributes to well-being as much as to accumulation. Preparation transforms time into momentum. Each period builds upon the last. The sense of forward movement strengthens motivation. Motivation sustained over time becomes discipline. Discipline sustained over time becomes mastery. Time then reflects mastery back as stability and growth. Those aligned with preparation understand that the future is not a threat, but a collaborator. They greet it with readiness rather than resistance. Time senses this readiness and responds accordingly. Opportunities appear earlier. Resources mature quietly. Pressure dissolves. Preparing wealth early also protects against regret. One does not look back wishing for earlier action because action was taken. Even imperfect preparation is preferable to perfect intention delayed. Time honors action. As preparation becomes habitual, time feels supportive. Deadlines soften. Long-term goals feel reachable. The individual moves through life with a sense of quiet assurance. This assurance is not based on guarantees but on preparedness. Time aligned with preparation becomes generous. It stretches to accommodate growth. It smooths edges. It allows mistakes without punishment. The individual feels carried rather than pushed. Wealth prepare. Ed in advance does not strain time, it cooperates with it. Each year becomes an asset rather than a liability. Age becomes an advantage rather than a concern. Experience compounds alongside resources. The prepared mind does not fear aging because preparation removes urgency. Time becomes a record of accumulation rather than loss. Each passing period adds depth and stability. Time also strengthens belief. Watching preparation mature builds trust in process. This trust reinforces continued preparation. The cycle sustains itself. When wealth is prepared early, time becomes a silent partner working continuously in the background. Effort made once continues to produce results repeatedly. The individual benefits from past discipline long after the effort itself is forgotten. Time favors what is set in order. Preparation is order applied ahead of need. When order meets time, growth becomes natural and resistance fades. As this alignment deepens, time is no longer something to race against or fear. It becomes something to move alongside, responding faithfully to foresight, patience, and consistent preparation, expanding what has been placed within it, strengthening foundations quietly, and allowing wealth to mature at its proper pace in harmony with the law of increase. Early freedom is the natural result of clarity, consistency, and belief. Early freedom is the natural result of clarity, consistency, and belief. For freedom does not arrive by accident, but unfolds when inner order is established. Clarity comes first, because without clarity desire remains vague and power is scattered. When one clearly knows what freedom means to them, choices begin to organize themselves. Confusion dissolves when intention is precise. The mind no longer entertains conflicting desires, and energy stops leaking into distractions. Clarity is not forceful, it is gentle certainty. It does not argue or rush, it simply knows, and what is known directs action effortlessly. Consistency gives clarity a body. A clear idea without consistent action remains imagination. When actions are repeated steadily, they become pathways. Each repeated step strengthens belief, and belief strengthens repetition. This cycle creates momentum. Consistency is often mistaken for rigidity, yet it is adaptability anchored in purpose. One adjusts methods but not direction. This steadiness allows progress even when motivation fluctuates. Freedom is not built on inspiration alone, it is built on reliable movement. Belief is the unseen structure supporting both clarity and consistency. Without belief, clarity weakens under pressure and consistency collapses under delay. Belief is not blind optimism, it is trust in principle. It is the understanding that cause produces effect, and that aligned effort cannot fail. When belief is present, setbacks are interpreted correctly. They are seen as part of process rather than signs of impossibility. This interpretation preserves momentum. Early freedom is not escape from responsibility but mastery of it. Those who experience freedom earlier than expected do so because they assume responsibility sooner. They do not postpone discipline or awareness. They understand that every choice either purchases freedom or postpones it. This understanding sharpens decision-making. Time and energy are treated as valuable resources, not to be wasted carelessly. Clarity simplifies life. When the goal is clear, unnecessary commitments fall away naturally. One no longer needs to say no forcefully, misaligned options lose their appeal. Simplicity creates space, and space allows focus. Focus amplifies results. Freedom grows quietly in this focused environment, often unnoticed until it is already present. Consistency trains trust in self. Each kept promise strengthens identity. The individual begins to see themselves as reliable, capable, and disciplined. This self-image supports further action. Confidence grows not from external validation but from internal evidence. Freedom follows confidence because confident individuals act without hesitation. Belief transforms waiting into expectancy. When belief is strong, time is not endured but utilized. One does not feel delayed, one feels in preparation. This emotional state prevents discouragement. Discouragement interrupts consistency, but belief sustains it. Those who believe deeply continue even when progress appears invisible. Early freedom also arises from emotional regulation. Clarity prevents emotional decision-making. Consistency stabilizes behavior. Belief calms the nervous system. Together, they create inner freedom before outer freedom appears. This inner freedom allows better choices. One no longer reacts to fear, envy, or urgency. Choices are made from alignment rather than pressure. Freedom is often thought of as sudden release, yet it is gradual loosening. Each clear decision removes a small constraint. Each consistent habit dissolves another. Each reaffirmed belief lifts weight. Over time, the accumulation of these releases results in noticeable freedom. It feels natural rather than dramatic. Clarity also refines desire. One learns the difference between what is attractive and what is essential. Essential goals receive attention. Attractive distractions fade. This refinement conserves energy. Energy conserved becomes energy invested. Investment accelerates freedom. Consistency builds resilience. When habits are stable, disruptions do not derail progress. One returns easily to rhythm. This resilience protects long-term outcomes. Freedom requires durability. Fragile systems collapse under stress. Consistent systems endure. Belief guards against comparison. When belief is internal, external benchmarks lose influence. One trusts their timeline. This trust protects peace. Peace supports persistence. Persistence produces results. The cycle reinforces itself. Early freedom often surprises observers because it appears effortless from the outside. What is unseen is the accumulation of clear choices, consistent actions, and sustained belief. There were no shortcuts, only alignment. Alignment removes resistance, and without resistance, progress accelerates. Clarity also influences environment. One begins to choose surroundings that support intention. Conversations, information, and influences are filtered. This filtering reduces noise. Reduced noise increases effectiveness. Freedom grows in quiet spaces. Consistency compounds small actions. What seems insignificant daily becomes powerful over time. This compounding applies not only to money, but to mindset. Repeated affirming thoughts strengthen belief. Repeated disciplined actions strengthen confidence. Both contribute to freedom. Belief allows one to act without immediate reassurance. External approval becomes unnecessary. This independence of opinion is a form of freedom itself. It allows one to persist even when misunderstood. Many abandon their path because they seek validation prematurely. Those grounded in belief continue. Early freedom is supported by forgiveness of imperfection. Consistency does not require flawlessness. Missed steps are corrected without self-punishment. This kindness preserves momentum. Harsh judgment interrupts belief. Gentle correction sustains it. Clarity creates boundaries. Boundaries protect energy. Protected energy fuels consistency. Consistency strengthens belief. Belief expands freedom. Each element supports the others. Freedom also emerges from alignment between values and actions. When actions reflect values, internal conflict dissolves. Internal harmony increases capacity. Increased capacity allows greater responsibility. Responsibility handled well leads to autonomy. Belief reshapes perception of effort. Effort is no longer seen as sacrifice but as expression. One acts not because they must, but because it aligns with who they are becoming. This identity-driven action is powerful. It sustains consistency without strain. Early freedom does not require extraordinary circumstances. It requires ordinary actions performed with clarity, consistency, and belief. These qualities are available to anyone willing to cultivate them. They do not depend on luck or privilege, but on alignment. As clarity deepens, goals become simpler. As consistency strengthens, habits become automatic. As belief stabilizes, fear loses authority. The individual experiences increasing lightness. Obligations feel manageable. Options expand. Freedom reveals itself in subtle ways first. Reduced anxiety, increased patience, improved focus. These inner shifts signal outer change approaching. Those attentive to these signs remain encouraged. Clarity prevents overextension. One does not pursue every opportunity. Selectivity improves outcomes. Consistency ensures follow-through. Belief sustains commitment. Together, they create a streamlined path. Early freedom is not separation from society, but independence within it. 1. Participates by choice, rather than necessity. This distinction changes posture and presence. Confidence becomes quiet. Belief also attracts support. Others respond to certainty. Opportunities align with conviction. This alignment feels natural, not forced. One is met by circumstances that reflect inner order. As freedom grows, generosity becomes possible. One is no longer consumed by survival. Creativity expands. Purpose clarifies further. Freedom feeds clarity, creating a reinforcing cycle. The process is cumulative. No single action creates freedom. It is the agreement of thought, habit, and trust over time. When these agree, freedom cannot be delayed indefinitely. Clarity directs the path. Consistency builds it. Belief sustains it. Where these three remain aligned, early freedom emerges not as a reward, but as a natural condition, unfolding quietly through steady choices, calm persistence, and unwavering trust in the law that aligned thought and action must express themselves as liberation in form.